The U.S. State Department is ordering non-emergency personnel to leave their post in Iraq. This comes after an earlier warning urging Americans in the country to avoid locations known as gathering places. RT correspondent Ashley Banks is live in the studio with all the latest. Ashley?
The tensions with Iran have put the U.S. on a high alert after officials say they received intelligence that U.S. forces may be targeted in Iraq. They say the Iranian tensions could lead to violence and kidnappings. As a result, Germany and the Netherlands have both halted military training in the Middle Eastern country. And over the weekend, just outside of the Persian Gulf, 4 oil tankers were attacked. The U.S. is blaming Iran, increasing tensions between the two countries. Let me break it all down for you. Now, U.S. officials have ordered that all non-emergency staff and their families leave Iraq. The State Department put out a travel advisory saying, quote, U.S. citizens in Iraq are at high risk for violence and kidnapping. Numerous terrorists and insurgent groups are active in Iraq and regularly attack both Iraqi security forces and civilians. Now, according to reports, U.S. officials say they have specific and credible intelligence that suggests Iranian forces were planning to target U.S. forces in Iraq. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made an unannounced visit to Iraq last week, speaking to Iraqi officials about the importance of protecting Americans in their country. Pompeo said the U.S. would retaliate against Iran if it does attack American interests in the Middle East. And after his visit to Baghdad, Pompeo met with EU diplomats in Brussels and traveled to Russia to meet with Putin, with Iran being high on the agenda. However, some like Chris Gicca, British general and senior officer in the U.S.-backed coalition fighting the Islamic State group, say there hasn't been an increased threat from Iranian-backed forces in Iraq and Syria. The U.S.'s announcement to remove personnel from Iraq comes after U.S. officials say Iranian combat divers are to blame for the attacks on 4 oil tankers near the Persian Gulf on Sunday. Iran has denied any involvement in the attacks on the oil tankers and accused President Trump of playing a very dangerous game, risking devastating war. Iran has also accused the Trump administration of trying to pull the country into war with the U.S. and regional allies. Iran's presidential aide went on Twitter to say, quote, Donald Trump, you wanted a better deal with Iran. Looks like you are going to get a war instead. That's what happens when you listen to the mustache. Good luck in 2020. That advisor says Trump will get a war for listening to National Security Advisor John Bolton. Bolton is known for his aggressive position towards Iran. He openly calls for the overthrowing of government, even by force. Now, at this time, the tanker attack is under investigation. And due to the rising tensions between the U.S. and Iran, Germany has halted military training for its 160 soldiers based in Iraq. Take a look at what German Defense Ministry spokesman Jens Flossdorf had to say.
This is a decision based on the current situation. We generally have increased attention, increased awareness, and the rule that the soldiers who are already working at this very high security level in Iraq only leave their accommodation, their camps, for good reasons, and also refrain from traveling outside if possible. That is all.
Flossdorf says there's no concrete threat at the moment and training may resume in the next days. The Netherlands has also joined Germany in halting its mission in Iraq due to a security threat. Due to the tensions, the State Department has even canceled a diplomatic security worldwide conference originally set for next week in Washington, D.C. The conference has been rescheduled for 2020. Reporting in the newsroom, Ashley Banks, RT.
All right, for more on this topic and more, let's turn now to Philip Giraldi. He's the executive director at the Council for the National Interest. Philip, always great to see you. Thanks for being with us today. First, I'd like your reaction to the State Department move to recall all of its non-essential workers back from Iraq, citing concerns for safety regarding Iran, and now other U.S. allies following suit. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are basically that this is a routine reaction to a situation in which the Iraqi government has already indicated that it will in no way support any U.S. initiatives against Iran. So the U.S. government has basically decided that U.S. government officials and their families are in a situation which is not secure, that the Iraqi government cannot guarantee the security of those people, so it's taking them out. But I would not get too alarmed about the alleged intelligence that this is based on, that there is a threat coming from Iran. That intelligence came from the Israeli government, which has a vested interest in hyping that kind of information. And basically, as I understand, it was pretty generic. It was just that Iran is planning various initiatives if the United States invades.
Now, on to the Persian Gulf. There was no elaboration on this, but one Iranian lawmaker called Behrouz Namadi, he called the damage to the 4 vessels off the coast of the UAE Israeli mischief. Could that be a legitimate accusation, or is this a diversion tactic?
I think it's a legitimate charge. I think that you in a situation like this, you have to say who benefits from it. And the only ones who benefit from this are the enemies of Iran that want to blame this on Iran to create another casus belli to support a U.S. attack against Iran. So I think that Iran would have no motive whatsoever to do something like this, because essentially everyone in the Gulf region knows what Iran's offensive military capabilities are, and they have their ballistic missiles. They have nothing to do with sending frogmen to damage tankers. So this is, I think, a phony charge against Iran.
And let's switch gears over now to Russia. Yesterday, we saw Mike Pompeo meet with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. They discussed a whole host of topics, including Iran, Venezuela, China. And then shortly thereafter, after their joint press conference, we learned that Vladimir Putin openly stated that he wanted to normalize relations with the United States. Many people were kind of surprised by that. What do you think prompted that statement?
Well, actually, I don't think this is anything new. I think Vladimir Putin has been saying for several years that he wants to have a respectful bilateral relationship with the United States. And if you want to call it normalization, well, you could call it that. But I think he's saying that the United States and Russia have to have a serious dialogue, and they have to lower the tension that has been coming out of the Russiagate investigation.
So do you think Putin's gesture will be used sort of as like a political missile against Trump if POTUS wanted to take him up on that offer?
Yeah, absolutely. There are plenty of people in the United States who would like to see tension with Russia and problems with Russia. But at the same time, there are a lot of people in the United States like myself who would prefer to see a comfortable, reasonable adult relationship between Russia and the United States. And so where Trump will be losing on one side, he'll be gaining on the other.
So he's kind of in a tough place, a rock and a hard place, as they say. So let me ask you, is this a prelude then to the G20 that's coming up?
I don't know if it really plays into that. I think there are a lot of multilateral issues going on right now, specifically in terms of how the Europeans are viewing what's going on in the Middle East and how they're viewing what's going on in Eastern Europe. So I think all these issues are much more complicated and are not reducible to a simple explanation.
All right. As always, we really appreciate you sharing some time and expertise with us today. Philip Giraldi, thank you so much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.